Hello everyone, so we're going to be talking about, I'm doing my Apush review choice board. So we're going to be talking about two main topics, and first of all, we're going to be starting with the Great Depression. So hello on the Great Depression, and one of the biggest financial calamities that has happened to the United States in its entire history. So what exactly caused me to occur? Well, I occurred due to a couple main factors. First of all, decreased consumer expenditures and a stock market crash in 1929. Furthermore, there was also a large problem, as I said before, with consumer expenditures. Consumers were spending a lot less money, especially due to the Smoot-Hawley tariffs, which made it more expensive for them to buy goods not produced in the United States. So, what happened because of me? First of all, I'm pretty sure about 15% of the United States became unemployed. Jobs fell, the market fell, and this fueled more and more financial crisis. It's sort of a loop of financial crises that occurred and occurred and occurred. Moreover, some people also speculated that it was caused by farming, and actually farmers who were unable to pay back their debts after they increased production for the First World War. So, okay, very interesting. But, what exactly happened? How did the United States combat this? Well, it's very important to note that FDR was the main president during the Great Depression. Obviously, Herbert Hoover was also president for a bit, but just talk about FDR. He expanded the role of the government to transform the United States from a very libertarian-minded government to a more welfare-oriented government. For example, programs like Social Security, the TVA, for example. Actually, not the TVA, but the amount of social services were increased in order to create jobs for individuals, and the government began to take a larger share in the economy. So, okay, that's very interesting. Good to know. So, let's move on to another topic. Hello, my name is the Second World War. So, the Second World War was after the First World War, which has devastated the Europe. United States was relatively unaffected in terms of land losses. Obviously, there was a lot of human life loss. But what's very, very interesting to note is the fact that after the war to end all wars, there was another war, and part of it was one of the causes for this war was the end of the First World War, such stuff like the Treaty of Versailles. There's a famous question which remarks how important was the Treaty of Versailles in causing this war? Like, how at fault is it? But also, our idealism Wilson's idealism caused a lot of the crises because the governments were unable to agree whether they should be fully harsh or they should be fully kind. And so it ended up sort of a middle ground, which was a fertile ground for extremism and led to the rise of the National Socialist Party. But in the actual World War, we entered kind of late in 1942 after Pearl Harbor, and we managed to win the World War with the land invasion of France and D-Day. This was already after the Battle of France, where the French lost to a strong German army that kind of blitzed entirety of Europe. So, okay, that's very, very interesting. But you might ask, what else? What else is interesting about the World War? Well, the World War helped boost our economy and helped get us out of the Great Depression. There was a famous question of whether Keynesian economics, which was applied by FDR, was truly functional as opposed to other methods. This question, unfortunately, was not answered because of the fact that we went into World War II. Secondly, I want to move on to another topic within World War II, subpoint B. Let's talk about the World War itself. The United States lost a lot of individuals. Obviously, not only in the Western Front, but in the Eastern Front, which was very, very bloody due to Japanese kamikaze tactics and the stern resistance they posed on the oceans. Especially the Battle of Okinawa, which, as we know, was very, very bloody, especially for the Japanese. But the World War was really a turning point, where the United States sort of turned itself into a true leader of the free world. It established, for example, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and organizations that still are standing to this day. The World War, in terms of the the West, was sort of the turning point. It was sort of, if you had to pick a moment where the West changed the most, it was World War II. Empires fell, even the Ottoman Empire. Leadership changed of Germany and so on. So a lot changed. So this is why I chose these two main events for my speed dating, and I hope you guys enjoy.